Alrighty then, I've been asked to make a quick video of what to look for when searching for a used WoodMizer sawmill. As you can see, we saw inside. This is a heated space. We are electrically powered, and we have an electric hydraulic pump kit. We do use the WoodMizer valves and manifold for our hydraulic functions. If the mill you're looking at doesn't have the winch, try to locate one. They're very important for the portable guy. Now, our mill, we're on stationary legs now. When we were portable, we had the adjustable legs, but the adjustable legs will not hold up to the constant abuse of what we do. We're going to look at the swinging bed rail first. Swinging bed rail, your stainless steel cover needs to be nice and flat all the way. There are adjustment screws here all the way around, 4 of them. They normally don't rust up too bad. What rusts up the worst is the vertical adjustment right here. If it does rust up, you can just cut it off with a torch and add some bolts. The biggest thing to look for is this mounting plate. This mounting plate needs to be flat up against the main frame. If you start banging it with big cants, it will deform and you'll get a big arch in it. Once you get a big arch in this plate, it's very difficult to true up your swinging bed rail. Next will be your frame, your bed rails right here. You want to look at your stainless steel plate, make sure it's flat all the way across, and you don't have severe damage at the ends. Now they are adjustable up and down. You'll loosen this bolt and nut assembly, and then this vertical nut and bolt assembly makes your rails go up and down. And at the front here, you'll see that it is dished out. We saw a lot of large diameter oak, long and large. Love them large. And it will, every time you turn it, it bangs the bed rail. The shock load goes through the rail, through the bolt, and into this lower tube, and it deforms this lower tube. A little bit of a concave is not the end of the world. A lot is bad. Moving on. We have, on ours, we don't have the roller toe boards. We have the original knife style toe board. They do deform, they do bend. This mounting plate right here bends, and the tubes for the springs, return springs, bend. It's not the end of the world that this stuff is bent. The biggest thing is that it goes up and down by itself. If it doesn't go up and down by itself, it needs to be replaced. And also check the bottom for leaks. You can break your attachment right here. Your hydraulic hose attachment will break or leak. Or if the seal goes out, it'll leak through the seal right here. This is the factory backstop from 1993. It's 3/4 of an inch thick compared to the new styles that are 1 inch thick. The 1 inch thick is a harder steel also. You can see this one's bent. We don't use them. We don't use the center ones a lot, so we're just getting by. The new ones are like $100 a piece. The new ones come with a hole here, and you can add bearings. There's round bearing. You can run 1 or 2, one on each side. We chose not to. We just thought in our application they would be in the way. WoodMizer does offer a stainless steel cover for these. We're almost ready for a new set. These are almost worn out, so maybe 1 more year, maybe less, and we're going to need a new set. We will get stainless steel for the new set. Like I say, these do wear. You can see how shiny that is. It's nice and smooth. Dirty logs, all that bark rubbing on here just wears it out. There are adjustments for it. Right here, this bolt, you loosen this bolt and this plate will swing to the left. And when you swing it to the left, it'll bring the top of the stop in, and that's how you keep it square. We'll move on to the clamp assembly. Your flip clamp, it's alright to have cuts. Most people do cut them. You'll see on this leading edge little cuts in it. Not a big deal. What you need to look for is that this flip clamp operates smoothly. It's spring loaded. I don't know if you can see it right there in my thumb. It's spring loaded down, flip it up, but it does need to move smoothly in the entire arc. Also, it needs to move smoothly is the actuator. On the actuator is this pipe. The pipe needs to roll easily. There are brass bushings inside the pipe that ride on the shaft. But again, everything needs to move smoothly. Now, one thing you need to look at, and it's not the end of the world, is this bushing. It's a brass bushing. They do fracture over time, just clamping. But primarily what breaks the bushings is if your turner breaks loose from your cant and your big cant comes back and slams this plate. You're sending shock load from the plate into this arm. It breaks this brass bushing. It also breaks this brass bushing. We normally do stock these. I have them in stock. I just haven't had time to replace them yet. Second thing, another thing to look at is a square tube. It's nice and shiny, and there is a poly pad underneath this plate. What you need to do is look at the distance in between this plate and your square tube. There's supposed to be a gap. We're getting pretty tight, and so our poly pads are getting worn down. But you do not want this steel bar to rub on your square tube. Once you scratch this, then you'll forever be chewing up your poly pads. Now, we talked about your big cants slapping this plate. You're sending a shock load through all this assembly, through this weldment, down into here. This is your main frame. All this is part of the main frame. You'll develop cracks. If you start banging this clamp a whole bunch, like we do, this weld will break. This is not available from WoodMizer. You have to protect this piece and keep this welded up, because you cannot buy just this piece and weld it back on. This plate here is available from WoodMizer. When they do fail, it'll fail right here. You'll break part of this metal out, and then this assembly will just not function correctly. All this is relatively cheap. It just needs to work smoothly. The turner, this is the original turner for 1993. Basically, you're just looking to make sure this arm swings back and forth. It is spring-loaded. We're on our second set of springs. The biggest problem we've had is if you get a big log and it racks either direction, it twists the turner like that. This plate right here is welded in here to keep the assembly square. If you rack your turner too much, you will break the welds. You can see we've welded each side a couple of times. Another thing to look at is your grease zerks. You have grease zerks. This is for the clamp assembly. There's grease zerks down in here. There's one over there. And look at the straightness of your control arms that make your clamp go in and out. A lot of people will bend the loader arms. This one's tweaked just a little bit. Normally they get caught by a farm tractor. You know, somebody gets all rammy-jammy. I'll slide over here, and we're going to look at the motor mounts. Well, it's a motor mount for me, and for most of you portable guys, it'll be an engine mount. But it's up in here, and basically you don't want any play in this mount. You may have to, push around on the engine and see if there's any slop in there. It's just a rubber bushing with a steel collar inside. They're not too bad as far as price, but they are a little tough to replace. When you pull back on your clutch arm, a good belt tension, you want to come back, you'll hit where you start to really build up pressure, and then it needs to snap into position. Just like that. That means your belt's tight enough. And you see we got the debarker add-on with a rear view mirror. That way when I'm backing up, I try not to hit my employees, but guess what? It happens. Oh. Blade guide arm. There's a set of bearings in these blade guide arm rollers. You can take your fingers and try to rock it and wiggle it and see if you hear any noise or feel looseness. They're not too bad as far as price, but they're kind of a pain in the butt to get reset when you replace them. We've done a couple sets already on other guys' mills. Now on your 19-inch wheels here, what we're looking for, let me grab my light. Oops. what we're looking for is 1/8 of an inch or more from the top of the metal wheel to the top of your B57 belt. These are only about a month old here, so they're sitting pretty good. But if your wheel wears, which they do wear, this belt will slip down in the groove too far, and then your band will touch the wheel and cause premature breakage. So basically what I suggest is you take a brand new B57 belt with you, take the old nasty belt off and slip it on here and see, and then compress it just with your finger and make sure you got more than 1/8 of an inch proud. And that'll let you know if your wheels are worn severely. Next we're going to look at the bearings. You want to take the top of the wheel and try to rock it in and out. Now on the idle side it will rock, but what you want to make sure is the bearing is not rocking, but the shaft is. Now it will rock, and what it's rocking is your control arms for your tensioner. There's an upper and lower. I don't know if I can make that move or not. Well, no. Anyway, when you rock it, you want to make sure all your movement is in your control rods, which is acceptable, and not in your bearing. These wheels are about $150 a piece when you need to replace them. It's relatively easy to do. It just costs money. Next we're going to slide over here, and we'll try to hold the light. And you need to check the play, or hopefully no play, in your bearing assembly on your drive side. Grab the top and the bottom and rock it and see if there's any movement or you hear any clicking in the bearings. We're on a second set of bearings. We were able to go to the bearing store in the town, and I don't know, 25 or 40 bucks a piece. We were able to buy bearings and replace them. If you have to go through WoodMizer, they're going to sell you the entire assembly. Basically, I don't know, you can see that U-bolt right there. The entire housing with the bearings and the shaft comes, and it's $500-600 bucks, something like that. And it's a real pain in the butt to change out. So a real big issue is if those bearings are bad. I'm going to slide down here. I only have 2 minutes left on my card. There's a little drive sprocket there. Look at the teeth and see if they're sharp. If they're sharp, it needs to be replaced. It's just a shaft. Take off that cover, take off the pulley, piece of cake. We're going to have to speed right up now. A minute left. This main rail here, we don't want any pits. A little bit of marking is acceptable. You'll have it where the bearings roll. But what we want to look at is, with a minute 26 seconds to go, is little cam collars. Bear with me here. Feel it with your finger, and you'll feel it. Well, hello. You'll feel a depression in the cam follower. A little bit of depression is fine. A lot of depression is not fine. Basically, they do wear. You'll just have to replace them. There's 6 of them. There's a set. There's 2 on the bottom and 4 on the top on the older mills. Well, I don't know what more to tell you. I only have 40 seconds left, so you can check, make sure it goes up and down smoothly. For the old mills, they do go slow. The super mills go faster. Alrighty then.